I reacted to and reviewed all of AimLab's Valorant scenarios live on stream. In this video, I'm going to show you some of the scenarios, starting with the ones I think you should never play and ending with the ones that I think are actually really good. VCT Latin King. Oh, I think this one's just a 1 wall 6 targets, TE wide. This could be wider, like this is not really a wide wall map, it's just so I guess it's probably intended to feel somewhat horizontal like Valorant. That's probably why. The targets are a bit big, but that's not a big deal. Clusters. Uh, it's it's just a standard static clicking. It's cool to work on your flicks and your flick technique and all that fun stuff, but it's not like it's the peak of Valorant aim training or like a reflex flicking scenario, or it could be a target switching scenario, so you could really focus on stopping power, not have to worry about like clicking, like because with clicking you can just like brush over the target, you don't really have to stop. But with like a target switching you have to stop, and also with clicking you have to focus on being way more accurate than you would be in game. With target switching you just got to focus on getting to the target as fast as possible, which is similar but a bit different. I just prefer target switching for that kind of map, and it's all right for working on flick technique, but it's nothing crazy. This does not feel like Valorant Friction. I don't even feel like I'm barely even stopping when I take my hand off the key. This does not feel like Valorant. It kind of is. It's mm, I feel like it's not the Valorant Frictions. Let's see. It's just what is it? Just a You gotta strafe. I don't like the strafe scenarios where they don't have the friction from the game, and this does not feel like Valorant Friction. This scenario, the whole point of it is to strafe and peek. It's not even using like the same strafe mechanics you'd use in game, so I personally don't like it. Is this supposed to be on any of the Valorant maps? I honestly can't tell. Oh, I think this is supposed to be split. Yeah, because this is kind of looks like the. I don't know. Is this a Valorant map? I think this is a Valorant map. I don't know. I'm the aim coach. I'm not a game coach. Yeah, but you just strafe, you peek. I don't love this scenario. Because, like, then you waste a lot of time on the strafe, too, because they always make the strafe time, like, a full second. Like, one, one, one. So, like, you're always, like, capping. Like, maybe you can get 70 bots on this on a good run. Like, watch, just sticking it until... Or, no, it's a bit more than a minute long. But, like, it's still just could be done way more efficiently. If you want to practice movement, you should at least have the movement mechanics that you'd use in the game you're training for. I'm not even saying you have to do it in game. There's just like AimLab now has Valorant frictions. I just don't think they applied in these old scenarios. Like it could be done better, but and those targets could have been moving. It just there's just I don't see any point in playing that scenario. Okay, so this, we have the ability to strafe. We can't fall off the middle. This is Haven B-side, obviously. I think it's even in the name. You got the jet knives, which it amazes me that they've done like the... Oh my god, this is annoying. Okay, I do like high to low ground scenarios. I feel like these are very underrated, so I do give this scenario more credit than it deserves, just because there's not a lot of like clicking where you're on a high ground, low ground dynamic clicking like this. So it is pretty cool. But watch this, watch this. You can shoot all the jet knives and then they come back, right? So AimLab doesn't have a little reload bar on the bottom of your screen, like right where the lowest jet knife would be, like right where that Valorant Masters bar. You can put a little reload bar like you can on Kovaaks for ammo, but they have fully functioning jet knives, which are the exact same mechanic, but way more graphical work. It just makes no sense to me why there's not a reload bar yet. That not even in all scenarios, but just in any scenarios, you can't put a reload bar in AimLab. Why is that? I don't know. We should probably assess the actual bot pattern of the scenario too, before I go too much on a tangent. So they strafe, they move in one direction, very slow, very steady, easy to track. This guy, I guess he's a little bit of a counter strafer, but he's not hard to hit. Uh, yeah. They come from 3 spots, so there's like the crowd control aspect, but then they get close to you and that doesn't actually do anything. You get 2,000 points for hitting them, um, and lose 200 for missing, so it's accuracy wouldn't be really huge in this. You need to miss 10 shots for it to give you the minus points of, which I guess is why it's a reload scenario, but it's also, let's see, does it get full reload after each bot? Yup. So, yeah, I honestly don't think this is a ideal Valorant scenario, but at the same time, it's not the worst thing to ever. It's not a scenario. It's like the bots are too easy. The bots are too easy. This one I actually played the other day also. Basically, you're confined in this square, this tiny square. It's supposed to be on the Icebox Valorant map. Targets will spawn in and shoot at you. You lose 2,500 points for getting hit with one of their bullets. A lot of time there'll just be like times like this where like there's a while where you don't see a target and then it comes out, it strafes, and I miss it a bunch of times. And then yeah, you get minus 500 for misses, those are clicks, and then minus 1,000 for getting hit by the target. It's a good strafing bot. You have to learn to hit this. It just there's a lot of scenarios that also have this bot pattern, right? Where it's like going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you gotta just kind of learn to smoothly hit it like that. But it adds the peeking component, but the target's not really fast enough or difficult enough that the peeking component's really a noticeable challenge. And I feel like it's more just wasting your time. There's a lot of downtime on the scenario waiting for a target to spawn. So I personally don't recommend this scenario. Never seen this one before. So let's see, same thing where you got a box to move in. A guy, people will peek you from over there. There's no one CT. All right, these are relatively small, relatively hard to hit, I'd say. A lot of it, they just move horizontally. All right, actually struggling with this one. Yeah, I kind of like this. I think this is the same merit as floating heads, except it's a bit of a micro scenario, right? So like, yeah, it's cool. I feel like you'd get used to it pretty fast, as there's really not that many bot patterns. You obviously don't want to track them, you just want to intercept them. It's cool. I honestly, this actually isn't that bad. It's definitely overdone on the map. Like the same thing could be accomplished with 2 dots and none of this whole, maybe a few invincible opaque walls, but you don't need that. You can have it because it looks cool, but it's cool overall. I don't think they used Valorant frictions based on the age of the task, so I'm gonna say that's a bit of a downside, but it's cool. Actually, not as bad as I was expecting. Makes sense. This is the Scream one, basically. They just go back, forth. So I actually really enjoy the scenario. The only thing is, like, it feels less like a counter strafing scenario, more like a smooth bot TS scenario. Like, they'll go, and then they'll watch this pattern. It, like, goes, and then it just goes, and it does a bit of things, and then it does the long strafe. And I feel like the long strafes are too many and too frequent. Too long, too frequent, etc. For this to be an effective task, because when it's on a long strafe, it's not really hard to hit at all. So you don't really get to train it when it's on the non-long strafe. But overall, it's not terrible. I don't like the fact that they have the bodies that you can just spam. That makes it super easy to just get crutched. Like, these are... It should probably just be no body. I get the intents to make it feel like it's invalid, but I mean, it's not even using Valorant Friction. Again, you got the strafe box, but no points for strafing. So, and also it's not even Valorant strafe mechanics. So I don't know. Let's see. The VCTA one, I've actually played this a few times before too. This is just floating heads. This is just a floating heads one where it's like they continuously go back and forth just like a standard floating heads. But the weird thing about it is that one of the bots spawns in a counter strafing pattern, and 4 of them spawn in a relatively normal floating heads pattern. So this bot will always be harder to hit, which one creates score and consistency. I think it's cool because it gives you multiple things to train if you go into it with a plan to recognize that bot. But it could also just be made as 2 separate tasks, and something tells me that this was an error left in from testing. And not an intended feature to give you two things to train. It means that the world record guy probably just learned to ignore that bot if the score actually got pushed. It's overall, it's floating heads. It's cool, but it's nothing crazy. And then there's this little bot that is in like a pure G horizontal clicking Valorant. So actually not that bad. It's a dynamic scenario. Oh, this one I enjoy. This is like a, watch this. This is like a pressure aiming. So then just wait, and then a second one spawns in. I'm not gonna go for too long because this one can last like 2 minutes if you play it hard. But yeah, basically watch. It'll go, and these three boxes are your lives. So yeah, and then watch this. Like I'll let that bot by. Then you'll watch one of the boxes disappear as that bot passes me. See, now one of those boxes is red. And like basically it just gets more and more micro scenario. I actually really like this one. It's good for training your micro adjustments while also forcing a bit of speed. But at a certain level you might want smaller targets, and yeah, if we let two more by, we'll finish it. I do actually enjoy this. So my final recommendation is not to focus on what the scenario looks like and then try and relate that to in-game scenarios, but rather focus on how the aim mechanics feel and what skills you're training and relate that to in-game mechanics. If you want to see the rest of my reactions and reviews, become a channel member of the supporter tier. Thanks for watching.